lead turned into a 9-6 loss for the Dodgers. 3 relievers gave up 9 runs after Ohtani's departure. Dodgers fans booed Roberts when he walked to the mound to make a pitching change in the 7th. They wanted to see Ohtani make a run at a no-hitter. The only bright spot for Dodgers fans was seeing Ohtani hit his 50th homer of the season. The Angels lost in Milwaukee last night 9-2. The loss eliminated the Angels from playoff contention in the American League and dropped their record to 69-82. The Angels have not made the playoffs since 2014. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
Hush not, child, and don't cry. Your folks might understand you by and by. Just move on up toward your destination. Though you may find from time to time complication. Bite your lip and take the trip. Though there may be wet road ahead and you cannot slip, just move on up.
I'm Tavis, Smiley, and we're moving on up. We are in the second hour of today's program, and what a spirited first hour that was. I thank A.B. Burns-Tucker and Liz Booker Houston for coming on today to get this train rolling. 2 great hours in front of us. In this hour, 2 conversations on the B side. We'll be joined by Washington Post contributing columnist Theodore Johnson to talk about Barack Obama's about face on red and blue America when it comes to redistricting here in California, where I sit. But we commenced this hour in conversation with former senior political analyst and anchor at CNN, John Avlon. Why? Glad you asked. Because I want to have a conversation for a few moments here about how the mainstream media, which we were just talking about in our first hour, how the mainstream media is getting the fight against fascism all wrong, and in the process normalizing this Trump narrative. So a different angle from what we discussed in the first hour. John Avlon, good to have you back. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Tavis. Good to be with you as always.
It's good to hear your voice as always. Thank you for your time. I want to make the most of these 30 minutes that we have. So let me just ask a broad question, a big question, and we can narrow it and get more specific as we move through this half hour. But what is your read of the way that the mainstream media is handling covering Donald Trump? And let me just be more. Let me get more specific a little faster than I said I would. We were just talking in our first hour. In our first hour, John, we were just talking about the way the mainstream media, for example, is covering the Charlie Kirk story. And it's been left essentially to independent media. It's been left to social media for the American public to get a fuller picture of who Charlie Kirk was, no matter what you think of him. The mainstream media, the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, even CNN, the mainstream media has not been reporting a full picture of who Charlie Kirk was and what he said. It's another example to my mind of bending the knee. And if media, if journalism rather, is about anything, it's about telling the truth and giving you a full picture. So we're not getting a full picture, but we are firing people, Matthew Dowd and the sister at the Washington Post and others who are finding themselves in harm's way now. But the media in this very moment is failing at giving a fuller picture, to my mind, of who Charlie Kirk was, and essentially drinking the Trump administration Kool-Aid. And as I closed last hour, I opened this hour by saying it's clear to me that they, and I'm talking about Trump now, they're trying to canonize Charlie, trying to canonize Charlie Kirk, but they vowed vengeance against any of the rest of us who try to speak some truth. Now, that's a broad opening, pick it apart as you will, reject it, embrace it, but that's my start. It's all yours.
I hear you on that. Look, I think you got to separate out the rightful and righteous reaction,
right?
The horror,
sure,
at the assassination of Charlie Kirk, right? And you got to condemn that clearly, because there's no place for political violence in our country, and we all got to be consistent about that, even if some folks are not as consistent, right? I think a lot of the divides in our country right now need to be understood as not right or left, but right or wrong. And journalism, you point out rightly, correctly, needs to be focused primarily on a search for truth,
yes,
on fitting the facts.
Yep.
And there are things you can do in deeper analysis that you cannot and should not do on day one or day two. And anybody whose impulse is to celebrate a death and assassination is got their moral compass wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a larger issue, obviously, with that second pivot that the Trump administration made almost immediately, which is to try to weaponize this tragedy to silence their critics, to create a new cancel culture that's been brewing on the right, where we see the fundamental hypocrisy of a lot of their talk about free speech in the course of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
It's always sort of free speech for me, not free speech for thee. I think there's a danger in this environment, and I'm somebody who, as you know, is a centrist,
Mm-hmm.
someone who believes deeply we got to find ways to reunite the nation. I think the far left and the far right, while not equivalent in our time, frequently do focus on what divides us, not what unites us. And I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's consistent with where we need to be as a country. But there's a form of fake fairness that a lot of news media get dragged into, it seems to me, where they start getting afraid to call balls and strikes. They start getting afraid to follow the truth. And instead they get dragged into kind of a one hand on the other hand view of politics that loses its North Star. And that, to me, is exactly the wrong way to be centrist. So 3 things there. 1, we got to be united and consistent in condemning political violence at all times, no matter who's involved.
Right.
2, when people try to weaponize a tragedy and to advance their agenda, to cancel their opponents, we all got to pump the brakes, because those 2 things, one should not flow from the other. And 3rd, I think there is a problem right now. There's a danger with media capture going on, something that many of us warned about when the Trump crew was praising Viktor Orban.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to make sure that independent media is making sure that they don't confuse being nonpartisan with being neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A false neutrality, a fake fairness, because you got to use truth and facts as your North Star. And you can't lose that. And if you do that, if you start kowtowing to folks for fear of offending, whether it's powerful interests or elements of the base, you start losing the real core that I think we need to keep in mind always as journalists and as a democracy. I think democracy should have journalism should have a pro-democracy bias. I don't think that is a political bias.
I've got 6 questions in my head swirling right now, literally. John gives me one comment, and I've got 6 questions for him. Let's see if I can get through all of them when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. We've all had that epic rideshare experience. Halfway through the trip, you know their heartbreak, their career path, and they know your aspirations to go find yourself in Portugal. It's human. We're all looking for connection, for someone to listen. But sometimes the people we spill our hearts to aren't exactly equipped to help us through it. With over a decade of data-backed experience from helping millions of people, BetterHelp matches you with a therapist based on your needs and goals. No asking for recommendations or endless scrolling through listings. Simply answer a few questions online and you'll be matched with a therapist, often in as little as 48 hours. Join over 5 million people worldwide who've trusted BetterHelp for their mental health and well-being. Get a therapist who gets you. Visit BetterHelp.com/ABC Radio to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/ABC Radio.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at kbla1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community-focused. So just go to kbla1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub icon, because knowledge is power and your health is everything. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and John Avlon, former senior political analyst and anchor for CNN. For that matter, at one point a Democratic candidate for Congress. Glad to have John Avlon back on this program. As I mentioned a moment ago, I asked John one question. He gave me one brilliant, eloquent response, and now I've got 6 more questions for John Avlon. So let me run through them. Let me start with this though, and I only do this, John, because I know this audience heard me a few days ago offer a pretty spirited commentary, editorial, if you will, about how I thought everybody was getting it wrong in the immediate aftermath of the assassination, the death, the murder of Charlie Kirk. And I made 5 points. And my first point, so just hold your seat for a second. My first point was,
you got it.
I am tired of hearing people say that political violence has no place in America. And here comes John Avlon saying to me and my audience that political violence has no place in America. So I know the audience sort of raised an eyebrow when they heard you say that, because I just opined against that kind of commentary on this program the other day. Let me give you my backstory, and then I'll give you another bite at the apple here. Condemn the political violence. Yes, absolutely. We have to condemn political violence. So I think people are well-meaning when they say that. But when they say there's no place for political violence in this country, it's just not true. America is predicated on political violence. That's what the Boston Tea Party was. And let's jump to Abraham Lincoln. Let's jump to JFK and RFK and MLK and Medgar Evers and Viola Liuzzo. And I could run the list all day long. You take my point. You're a bright guy. So when people say that, I know they're well-meaning. But I just want to make sure that we're clear about the fact that America has been predicated on political violence, and it ain't stopped since day one, John Avlon.
So look, I hear what you're saying. I think predicated, we can parse those words. You can say that, look, Boston Tea Party, the American Revolution,
January 6th, January 6th.
Well,
yeah.
And I don't think those things are equivalent, right? right? I mean, January 6th was the first time we had an attack on our Capitol by fellow citizens who were trying to overturn the results of an election. The American Revolution, of course, was an attempt to, create freedom from a colonial power. And the Civil War was obviously a war that was about stopping slavery and secession, and that ultimately we were not able to deliberate our way as a democracy to doing. I think the point is that we, especially here in the 21st century, need to recognize that we don't want to pour gasoline on the flames. We don't want to exacerbate the divide. We can point to incidents of political violence throughout our history.
Yep.
I got you. But we also got to, we got to be careful not to use that past as a way of excusing or dignifying political violence, because that creates a glide path to escalation.
Agreed.
And in the mind of inevitability that is truly dangerous for where we are now, and that's not who we are at our best. So this is about appealing to the better angels.
No, I agree. I agree. We're not that far apart. I don't want this Pollyannish view of America as if political violence has not been part of our story. So I think we're not that far apart. Just want to say that. The second thing, I'm rushing through these issues right quick. The second thing you said that got my attention was, I'm paraphrasing you, but there's a time and a place for reporting, and reporting. You roll out your reporting, and I get that. And you sort of suggested that earlier. And yet my mind went to the death of Jimmy Carter and many other examples I could offer. You've been around for a while. You could do the same thing if you took the time. We don't do that for some people. So Jimmy Carter passes away, and immediately on Fox News, obviously, but even on MSNBC, even on CNN, they start dissecting. You have respect for the life and the death of the president, former president, but they immediately started dissecting Jimmy Carter's record. You immediately go into this conversation that some thought he was like, the worst, one of the worst presidents ever, certainly one of the best, if not the best ex-president we ever had. But the commentary about Jimmy Carter's record started almost immediately after word came that he had taken his last breath. And in this Charlie Kirk scenario, if you do that, then you get targeted by the Trump people for hate speech. People don't want to hear the full story of Charlie Kirk, but we do it for other people who are much more vaulted in American history than Charlie Kirk was.
I think that's the difference between assassination, between a violent death of a 31-year-old, and the long expected death of a 90-something-year-old. And I think that explains that disconnect.
Okay,
that difference.
All right, I hear that, and I can accept that argument, and yet Jimmy Carter is just one example. I'm gonna push past it because I got more stuff I want to talk to you about. But there are other.
I'm keeping it tight.
Yeah, I got it. But there are many other examples I could point to again, where the minute somebody dies, we go in on. Let me go all the way out there. And I'm not asking you to opine on this, so just stand down for a second. This is me talking, not John Avlon, because I ain't trying to get you in trouble. But I can tell you right now, I'm talking to the audience now more than I'm talking to John Avlon. I want you to pay attention to the way that we are processing and commenting and being careful about the death of Charlie Kirk. Even though Charlie Kirk engaged repeatedly in hate speech. Put a pin in this. I hope this doesn't happen anytime soon, but I also acknowledge and understand, as do you, that we all at some point have to do that dance with mortality. Ain't none of us getting out of here alive. But I want you, if you are still around, to just mark this moment of how we are processing and commenting publicly or not about Charlie Kirk, and what's going to happen the minute that the brother Minister Louis Farrakhan takes his last breath. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm not even letting John Avlon comment on that, because I ain't trying to get him in trouble. But I'm just telling you, stick around. And again, we all have to do that dance to mortality. He's gonna take his last breath just like I am and just like you are. But I'm telling you right now, the minute the brother minister takes his last breath, they're gonna go in on him. There's gonna be no regard for his humanity, no regard for his wife and his children. None of that's going to be an issue. They're going in on him. So put a pin in it. I'm on tape. You recording this, Miles? We recording this? All right, so we're on tape. So at that time, if I'm still around, we're going to pull this tape out. And I'm going to tell you what I said about what was going to happen when it does, in fact, happen. I'm going to leave that alone. Now, to your point about fake fairness, I love that. I love that frame, which leads me to ask whether or not, and I'm not even being funny here, and I'm not being funny. Neither am I being naive, but I do want to ask John whether or not you mentioned fake fairness and you mentioned a moral compass. Let me just ask you whether or not you believe that the corporate media has a moral compass. Does mainstream media have, all the rest of us are supposed to have one? Does mainstream media, does corporate media have a moral compass?
Yes. And but let me explain what I mean. All organizations in America, for now, are made up of human beings. Human beings have, upside and downside. They most of them want to think they're doing good, and most journalists in news organizations try to find a way to the truth. They try to do their jobs right. They have debates inside newsrooms that no one else hears. You've heard them, and they're honest, good, constructive debates, and they have a healthy degree of skepticism. And that's not always, evident to folks, especially when they bring their own confirmation bias seeking missiles to their own, intake. Mm-hmm. I think where human beings get screwed up, and there's a human problem, is when there's a sense of people contorting their own internal moral compass to conform to what they think the boss wants. Mm-hmm. Right? This is a problem in any organization, from a dictatorship to a small country, is that there's a tense trying to careerism combined with cowardice that causes people to twist their moral compass, to try to put spin on the ball. And that's where the problems get in. Mm-hmm. But you got to keep in mind that, this is part of trying to be consistent and trying to keep everything in a human frame. And so, yeah, there are a lot of great journalists in every news organization, but explicitly partisan news organizations tend to get twisted around the axle faster because they understand, and everyone's got their reasons, their rationale. Oh, it's what the audience wants. It's what the boss wants. It's what, this is the problem of polarization in politics today. But you gotta resist that with all your might, because that's when sort of, the bad stuff creeps in, and it can corrode our character real quick.
Yep. So I'm looking at comments just pouring in right now while we're talking. And I'm looking at one right now, which raises a pretty interesting question that I'll share with you right now. If let me I want to rephrase what they've written here, but what they're essentially getting to in this particular comment I'm looking at right now is how you how you square a moral compass with making money. If we believe that corporate media has a moral compass, how do you square, John Avlon, that moral compass with making money? Because those two things, more often than not, are not in alignment.
I don't know that I agree with that, but you got to put it in perspective. Look, there's nothing immoral about making money in a liberal. We're a liberal capitalist democracy. I think that has gotten a bad rap in recent years in the history of the world. It's a pretty damn good system. Mm-hmm. It is predicated upon giving people what they want, and there's a broader morality of the market as long as there are guardrails in place. Mm-hmm. What's bad is if people, cheat and steal and appeal to the worst of humanity, and then all of a sudden they find there's a market and people throw up their hands and say, see, there's nothing, there's a market for snuff films, so why in the world would you make it illegal to traffic in them, for example?
Sure.
And the answer is that's where the guardrails comes in. That's where it's important we got decency, morality, and a sense of character driving our decisions, and that's where the balance comes in. I'm not into absolutes. I'm into trying to find some common sense and common ground in our civic conversations.
Yep. So I'm looking at some of these questions. I'm just going to squeeze one more in right quick. Tavis, does John Avlon think that the celebrations after Osama bin Laden's political assassination suggest that there is an appetite in this country for political assassinations, depending on who it is?
Oh, I'm going to push back hard on that person for a couple different reasons. One of which I was there on the steps of City Hall when the towers fell. I was very involved in the response to 9/11. I think when you're dealing with terrorism, which of course the definition is political violence, directed at civilians on a large scale, that was a matter of justice in the context of a war which we did not bring but was brought to us. And I don't think that is a commentary on domestic political violence in the context of a democracy.
So what concerns you? Look at my clock here. I got 3 or 4 minutes left with John Avlon, who I'm always delighted to be in conversation with. What most bothers you about the way the mainstream media is covering or not covering this fight against fascism and authoritarianism? They don't tend to use those words. Everybody else is. Put another way, what troubles you most about the ways in which the mainstream media, the corporate media, is normalizing the Trump narrative?
I think that's the problem. I think the challenge is that there's been there hasn't been the kind of clarity that involves saying, look, that this is cheating, this is stealing, this is far outside the norms. There's a sense that our capacity to call balls and strikes and to keep that perspective has been overwhelmed by the sheer scale. And that if you're asking about the Trump family enriching itself to the tune of billions of dollars via crypto, if you're asking about the effect of decriminalization of corruption by their actions as an administration in the Justice Department, that stuff isn't even rising to the level because, human beings tend to, Trump is very good at playing our attention spans. And therefore it's up to us to make sure we're actually doing the hard work and the good work. And again, it's about being nonpartisan but not neutral. You can't be neutral on this stuff. And I think there's not been enough pushback, and it's real dangerous the direction we're going in.
Yep. So here's my exit question again to another issue that you raised earlier, and I think I would have finally covered all 6 of the things that were in my head moments ago. What is the long-term danger? What is the long-term danger of the corporate media engaging more and more, to my mind, sadly and regrettably, and annoyingly, to this both sidesism? I see it more and more every day. There's this penchant that the media has for both sidesism, as if they're going to get in trouble if they don't present you an alternative point of view, which is not rooted in any sort of truth. But what's the long-term danger, right quick, of this both sidesism that the corporate media too often plays?
Look, we see this in the fight against Russian disinformation. I interviewed a journalist from Ukraine before this latest invasion, and he said the goal of Russian disinformation is not to convince, it's to confuse. It's to flood the zone so you don't know what's true anymore, and then you throw up your hands, you become cynical and apathetic, and therefore easier to manipulate.
Right.
That's the danger. Right. The danger is, they said the Russians would try to turn, they would use the far right and the far left against the center. That's the danger. Yeah. And that's the danger we got to keep in mind. You don't bring someone on with science and someone on with a partisan, hyper partisan opinion, and then shrug and tell the audience you decide.
Yeah,
you got to use facts as the lodestar, and as you do, and I try to do. Use history to provide a little bit of context. So you got a fact-based debate. That's what democracies depend on, and that's what's at risk right now, and it's real.
Look, I am always honored to be in conversation with my friend and brother John Avlon, former senior political analyst and anchor for CNN and Democratic candidate for Congress. John, as always, thanks for your insights, man. We'll do it again.
Anytime, my friend. Be well.
All the best to you. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Black Mayor Brandon Johnson blast President Trump's threat to send the National Guard to Chicago.
It has never come up. It never came up during the campaign. It's never come up in the first 2 years. The fact of the matter is we are driving violence down in this city.
They called it unconstitutional and a distraction from real solutions to crime. Black Congressman Benny Thompson of Mississippi is urging a federal probe into the hanging death of Black 21-year-old DeMartravion Trey Reed, calling it suspicious despite no signs of foul play. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump is now representing the family. And on this day in 1862, the Battle of Antietam became the deadliest one-day clash in U.S. military history, with over 22,000 casualties. The Union victory gave President Lincoln the momentum to issue the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
San Diego's events calendar is full of flavor. Dig into local wine and food festivals, treat the family to kid-inspired deals all October, and get a taste of glory at the Breeders' Cup World Championship. Plan your trip now at sandiego.org/awesome all year. Funded in part with City of San Diego Tourism Marketing District Assessment Funds.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers had a very frustrating night at Dodger Stadium last night. Shohei Ohtani had a no-hitter against Philadelphia through the first 5 innings, while the Dodgers built a 4-0 lead. Because Ohtani is on the pitch count after major surgery on his right shoulder, Dodgers manager Dave Roberts replaced Ohtani after the 5th inning. A 4-0 lead turned into a 9-6 loss for the Dodgers. 3 relievers gave up 9 runs after Ohtani's departure. Dodgers fans booed Roberts when he walked to the mound to make a pitching change in the 7th. They wanted to see Ohtani make a run at a no-hitter. The only bright spot for Dodgers fans was seeing Ohtani hit his 50th homer of the season. The Angels lost in Milwaukee last night 9-2. The loss eliminated the Angels from playoff contention in the American League and dropped their record to 69-82. The Angels have not made the playoffs since 2014. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
With Robinhood, not only can you trade individual stocks and ETFs, you can also seamlessly buy and sell crypto. at low costs. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
It does indeed, in conversation now with Theodore Johnson about his provocative essay entitled Obama Makes an About Face on Red and Blue America. That's the title. Obama Makes an About Face on Red and Blue America. Before I jump into it with Theodore Johnson, take a listen to the Barack Obama, who was introduced to the nation really on this night. I was sitting right there in Boston, 2004, at the Democratic National Convention, where John Kerry became the standard bearer for the party in that particular election. So before I get to Theodore Johnson, listen again to Barack Obama in 2004.
It is that fundamental belief, I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper, that makes this country work. It's what allows us to pursue our individual dreams and yet still come together as one American family. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Now, even as we speak, there are those who are preparing to divide us. The spin masters, the negative ad peddlers, who embrace the politics of anything goes. Well, I say to them tonight, there is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. There is not a black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America. There's the United States of America. The pundits like to slice and dice our country into red states and blue states, red states for Republicans, blue states for Democrats. But I've got news for them too. We worship an awesome God in the blue states, and we don't like federal agents poking around in our libraries in the red states. We coach Little League in the blue states, and yes, we've got some gay friends in the red states. There are patriots who opposed the war in Iraq, and there are patriots who supported the war in Iraq. We are one people, all of us pledging allegiance to the Stars and Stripes, all of us defending the United States of America.
So as I mentioned, Theodore, I was in the audience that night. I was in Boston, as I have been for most of my career, covering the convention. And I'm not going to lie, there were a number of times in that otherwise brilliant speech, a number of times that my eyes rolled. I ain't going to lie about it. My eyes rolled a number of times. And when he got into that section, I about fell out of my chair. I also didn't appreciate his suggesting that America's original sin was slavery. Well-intentioned when he said it, but that's not true. Ask the Native Americans. But that part just really got me. And I had the opportunity. I knew Barack Obama already. I'm glad to say that I'm happy to say I knew him long before the nation got to know him. He was supportive of my foundation, the Tavis Smiley Foundation, which works on youth leadership issues. And so I knew Barack Obama long before the country got to know him, but I rolled my eyes at that part of the speech. But I had a chance to talk to him when he came off stage that night. I actually interviewed him from Boston. So we got into a little bit of that in our conversation. I wanted to be respectful of the brother. I was a household name at that point. But anyway, I was fascinated to read your piece that Obama makes an about face on Red and Blue America. This program is syndicated, heard across the country, but I sit in LA, so I know this story rather intimately because I'm in California right now. But just give me right quick a sense of what honed you in on this particular issue at redistricting, that is, as it relates to Barack Obama.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me back on, man. Yeah, this was fascinating to me because I was tracking what was happening in the state of Texas, where Donald Trump asked the state assembly to basically go find some more Republican seats by redrawing congressional districts to help Republicans keep the majority in Congress. And Texas agreed to do that and then passed a law that basically got them 5 more seats in Congress to pad the Republicans' majority in Congress in the House now. California decided that's cheating. And the one way to combat Republicans using a red state to cheat is to use a blue state to undo the advantage that Texas had secured by redistricting. So California decided to put a question to the people this fall to redistrict its congressional zones to create enough more Democratic seats to offset the Texas gain. And while this is happening, Missouri, a red state, is actually just passed a bill in its Congress to gerrymander states to give Republicans an advantage. Indiana's considering it. Ohio, on the left, New York is considering it. Maryland, Illinois, and so now we're in an arms race between blue states and red states about who can use the partisan gerrymander more effectively to engineer their party's advantage in Congress to the detriment of their voters, but to the benefit of the party.
And given what Obama did in fact say in 2004, we played that clip. There is no red America. There is no blue America. There's only the United States of America. Given what he said then, were you at all surprised by his public comments endorsing the California plan?
Yeah, I was. And I mean, it came with all the caveats one would expect. I mean, Obama's been around a long time. So what Obama essentially said was, I support Governor Newsom's plan in California to redistrict, to gerrymander California's districts in order to undo the advantage that Texas can create for the Republicans. And he said, look, the thing that makes us different in California, or that makes the California and Democrats different, is that California will put the question to the people. So they will let the people decide via a ballot initiative whether or not they should partisan gerrymander the state to Democrats' advantage. The second thing is, if there's a trigger that says once the new census data is collected in 2030 and the regular cycle of redistricting happens, this law goes away or this plan goes away. Or if Texas undoes its Republican advantage, then the plan goes away.
Right.
Because of those caveats, Obama has endorsed a partisan gerrymander of California to make it more blue. And it just really struck me that this was the man saying there's no red or blue America, but now pulled into these politics is explicitly, has picked a side.
So when I heard him say
excuse the damage.
Yeah. So when I heard him say it, I the first question I asked myself was, Mr. Obama, so gerrymandering is okay if the people vote for it? I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that logic works on me, that it's okay if the people vote for it. Because what if those people happen to be Republicans? And I'm not so sure I buy the argument that gerrymandering, which I believe is one of the great threats to our democracy, is okay just because the people support it. Again, those people could be the other folk. But my question, though, is, that said, Theodore, what did you make of all the caveating that he did to express his support of the California plan?
Yeah, so it's two things. The first thing is the Supreme Court took this question up a few years ago in Russo v. Common Cause and said partisan gerrymandering. This is bad for democracy, but it's none of the court's business. So the Supreme Court essentially said that if we don't like partisan gerrymandering, the people have a remedy. Vote out the people who do gerrymandering and vote in people who are against it. And so when Obama says, let the people answer the question, that's essentially the guidance that the Supreme Court has mandated, because it told the courts hands off of partisan gerrymandering. That's one. The second piece is, look, Obama the Democratic Party is arguing that Republicans are anti-democracy, okay, and a lot of evidence to support those claims. And so the tact that it's taking is to be anti-democracy. And so when you partisan gerrymander in order to undo advantages from a partisan gerrymander, you may see your actions as moral because you're undoing the bad thing. But undoing the bad thing doesn't mean doing the good thing. And Obama's speech in 2004 and a lot of his time in office, he was pro-democracy. We should fight for these principles, not cheat. And beat the other guys at their own game, but use the rules and do so in a way that's fair, moral, and just in order to win. And now he is saying, in the interest of being pragmatic and defending democracy, we have to support Democrats redistricting, and that's sort of how he gets around sort of going against the argument, some of the arguments or approaches he was arguing for 2 decades ago.
So you used the term arms race a moment ago. I accept that. I have used the term a race to the bottom. However one describes what we're witnessing right about now, when we come forward, I want to ask Theodore Johnson what his read of that is, whether you call it an arms race between the states, whether you call it a race to the bottom. I have said any number of times, I said on this program earlier today in our first hour, as I recall, that if ain't nobody playing by the rules, if there are no principles, if we're throwing all that out the window, what happens to this democracy, this experiment in democracy long term? So whether you call it a race to the bottom, whether you call it going down the rabbit hole, whether you call it an arms race, pick your metaphor. I want to know what Theodore Johnson thinks about where we're headed when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Theodore Johnson, who is a Washington Post contributing columnist, wrote a pretty insightful piece called Obama Makes an About Face on Red and Blue America. In case you've just tuned in, I started this half hour with Theodore playing a clip of Barack Obama in Boston at the Democratic Convention in 2004, where he said there are no red states, there are no blue states, there are no liberal states, there are no conservative states, there's just the United States of America. And here we are a few years later, and he's endorsing the plan here in California on redistricting to sort of get back at Texas and Florida and others, and Missouri and other states that Theodore just ran down, what they are attempting to do. And I have deemed this a race to the bottom, going down the rabbit hole. He calls it, Theodore Johnson calls it, an arms race. By whatever name one calls it, where are we headed in this democracy, Theodore Johnson?
Yeah, well, at this rate, our country will be divided red and blue at the state level. And that's not good. If you're a fan of the Electoral College, then you want every state to partisan gerrymander itself to be a completely one color. Mm-hmm. Most Americans are not fans of the Electoral College. And what partisan gerrymandering does is make Congress look like presidential elections, where one state is basically one party takes every vote in the state when it comes to seating someone in Congress or in the White House. That's not good for democracy. That pulls the decisions, the outcomes of elections further away from the voice of the people and gives parties more control over where votes go and which votes get counted and who seats in power. So if the founders warned, 250 years ago, no matter what you think of them, that the thing that will destroy this country quicker than anything else are when parties start to work for themselves instead of for the interests of the country, or much less for the people of the country. And where we're at is sort of on the road to where parties are using people in the states to do battle, rather than being the means by which people are, make their voice heard in democracy, and the republic provides representation for that voice.
I'm glad Theodore Johnson mentioned Electoral College. In our remaining moments with him, I want to ask him this question point blank. Let me tee it up now, and we'll let Theodore sound off on it when we come forward here. So he mentions Electoral College. There's a long-standing debate in this country, as you well know. You've likely been a part of this debate. I know I certainly have, more times than I can count, about the Electoral College versus the popular vote. And he's right about the fact, and the data on this, I think, is incontrovertible. There's data everywhere suggesting that most Americans think that the Electoral College has seen its better days. It is obsolete. It's time to do away with the Electoral College. And don't get me started, you know this stuff as well as I do, about who would be president in our past. Historically, who would have been president if we were talking about the popular vote and not about the Electoral College. So put a pin in that for the moment. But this debate continues to rage about the Electoral College versus the popular vote. So my question for Theodore Johnson, since he raised it, and I'm glad he did, is how this debate that we are in now, how this race to the bottom, how this arms race on redistricting causes us, or should in fact cause us, to rethink this notion of the Electoral College versus the popular vote. I think that question makes sense. We'll let Theodore respond to it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Is your loved one at the hospital or in a nursing home? Have they developed bed sores, fallen, or worse? These are things your family members should be protected from. Bed sores, falls, and dehydration are almost always the result of negligent care. If this has happened to your loved one, call Zoran at Basic Law Group at 800-215-1234 or visit basiclawgroup.com. The consultation is free, and if they don't win, you don't pay. That's 800-215-1234.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than Saquon Barkley, the NFL's reigning leading rusher. I'm also the NFL's leading husher. Shh, hush up back there. Wow, I might have just set the hushing record. Well, almost. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Theodore Johnson, Washington Post contributing columnist. Once again, his piece, which I encourage you to read, is entitled "Obama Makes an About Face on Red and Blue America. The Former President's Support of California's Redistricting Plan Promotes the Partisan Divide." That's Theodore's piece for the Washington Post. So the exit question, Theodore, got 2 minutes left, and I'll give it all to you. Actually, 3 minutes left. It's all yours. So your raising of the Electoral College leads me to ask the question that I posed, or at least teed up a moment ago. In this debate, this long-standing debate about the Electoral College versus the popular vote, how does this arms race, to use your phrase, around the notion of redistricting cause you to rethink that long-standing debate?
Yeah, so right now, the way the Electoral College works is it gives whichever party wins the popular vote in a state, all of those states' electors go to that candidate, which means the losing candidate could win 48% of a state's popular vote, and they get no Electoral College votes. To me, that's not representative. What congressional districts do is sort of divvy up a state into equal number of constituents, and each one of them has a say on who their representative will be in Congress. And it's not one party, it's not the state determining who the winner is, it's the people in those districts, and they can be people of different parties, multiple. So that is actually more democratic. What partisan gerrymandering does is it gets rid of the competition at the local level, where our voices could be expressed in political differences, and makes it basically a blanket color for a party, which is what the Electoral College does. So the college is broken, and we are now in the process of breaking the most democratic institution in elected government, which is the House. I think we should reform the Electoral College to be proportional. You win 60% of a state's popular vote, you get 60% of that state's electors, and that still preserves a smaller state advantage, but also gives more voice to the people's choice for president, and not be sort of constrained by the 50% plus one choice of when the state's elected.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's an appetite right now in Washington for either the way that things are shaping up in the House and in the Senate. Say nothing of what these elections are going to bring us next year. I'm not sure there's an appetite for reforming the Electoral College any more than there is an appetite for doing away with it and just relying on the popular vote. But I think your point is spot on. That as currently structured, it is not democratic, and it is not representative, with all due respect to what the founding fathers intended when they designed it that particular way. Again, the piece is called "Obama Makes an About Face on Red and Blue America. The Former President's Support of California's Redistricting Plan Promotes the Partisan Divide." I should add, I didn't mention this earlier, so we got a former governor and a current governor going tete-a-tete. So Gavin Newsom has advanced this plan that's coming to a vote in November. Arnold Schwarzenegger, former governor, who actually was governor when we put this plan in place, that we would have this commission to do our redistricting, he has come out against Gavin Newsom and this particular idea. And so we're going to see these elephants fight between now and November about what direction the state of California will take when it comes to redrawing our lines, gerrymandering, and finding some more Democratic seats to blunt what has happened in Texas and Florida, and now happening apparently in other states across the country. Theodore Johnson, thank you for your great writing. Thank you for this piece, and thank you for the conversation, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good to have you on. More of Tavis when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Black Mayor Brandon Johnson blast President Trump's threat to send the National Guard to Chicago.
It has never come up. It never came up during the campaign. It's never come up in the first 2 years. The fact of the matter is we are driving violence down in this city.
They called it unconstitutional and a distraction from real solutions to crime. Black Congressman Benny Thompson of Mississippi is urging a federal probe into the hanging death of Black 21-year-old DeMartravion Trey Reed, calling it suspicious despite no signs of foul play. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump is now representing the family. And on this day in 1862, the Battle of Antietam became the deadliest one-day clash in U.S. military history, with over 22,000 casualties. The Union victory gave President Lincoln the momentum